Hey guys, welcome to The Market is Open. Today we're going to talk about Tesla. They released their production and delivery numbers today. We're also going to have a look at the stock price. Secondly, we're going to take a look at the Q4 earnings estimate. We're going to try to guess their earnings for Q4 based on their deliveries. And lastly, please subscribe to our channel. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll want to subscribe to our channel. But we have over 20 Tesla videos, so check them out. Okay, so here are Tesla's vehicle production and delivery numbers. So they grew production to 86,555, which is a bit over 61,000 Model 3s, and that's 15% better than the previous quarter. And of course, they're in line with Model S and X, a little bit less than 100,000 per year. Now, deliveries grew to 90,000 vehicles. I believe last quarter was closer to 85,000, so that's about an 8% increase. And they delivered more Model 3s than they produced this quarter. So that's pretty good. We're going to look at that a little bit more closely in a second when we try to guess their earnings estimate for Q4. They also didn't hesitate to cut the price of all their cars in the United States by $2,000 to sort of compensate for the tax credit getting cut in half at the end of last year. So now the tax credit will be $33,750 instead of $7,500. Or they've delivered as many cars as possible in the last quarter to try and give as many people those credits, but now the tax credit got halved, and in the next quarter it'll get halved again for 6 months, and then it'll disappear completely. It's also worth noting that General Motors sold 200,000 cars, electric cars, and so their tax credit will be cut in half in 3 months from now, and will fade away by the end of the year. So this price cut of $2,000 will help absorb some of that hit that Tesla is taking, but it will also make them competitive against other car manufacturers in the United States. Now, Tesla did fall today. You can see here on our website, the market is open. It's down to 6.82%. So investors didn't really like the news of the deliveries and production numbers, and they didn't like the cut in price. It seems to signal that the demand is weaker. I mean, Elon was tweeting quite a bit at the end of the quarter to try to get people to buy inventory for the car. So they were pushing really hard, and yet they still, they didn't have blowout numbers for Model 3 sales. So people think that demand will be reduced starting in January. However, Tesla did mention that they're going to be starting shipping to Europe and to the rest of the world for Model 3s. They still have a new $35,000 variant on the way, hopefully within the next 6 months. And they can always introduce leasing, which will help people to be able to afford these more expensive cars. Okay, so now let's get into Tesla's income statement and try to predict their Q4 numbers. Last quarter, which was Q3, we have a video where we try to guess the Q3 estimates. They went from being hugely negative to being positive in the quarter, quite positive actually. So we're going to try to use a similar methodology to try to guess Q4, and I'm going to walk you through it right now. The first thing we're going to do is try to estimate their automotive revenue based on the last quarter's mix. So last quarter they sold 83,000 cars approximately. This quarter they delivered 90,000 cars. So we're sort of guessing a little bit here on the numbers, but it's based on, these numbers are the numbers that Tesla came out with in the press release. So we estimate the price based on Q3, and then we're going to multiply the new Q4 delivery numbers by our estimated price. Now the estimated price mix could change based on the types of the versions of the Model 3 and Model X variants that they sell. So for example, I believe that there were a lot of dual motor Model 3s shipped last quarter. Elon stated that they started the quarter shipping no dual motor cars, and then by the end of the quarter, they were shipping only dual motor cars. So that was only the first quarter. I believe the demand for dual motors is still pretty strong, so we left that estimate around the same. And we're also leaving Model S and X prices around the same as what we estimated for last quarter. Tesla doesn't ever break out the actual price of the average price of the cars that it sells. So when we do that, we get $6.2 billion as the automotive revenue. Okay, so I'm going to put that number over here. So we're going to start with 6.2 billion of automotive sales. I just put here the last 3 quarters just so we can see for comparison. You can see the big jump in sales from Q2 to Q3. So it's going to be a little bit higher than Q3. They sold 8% more cars. Now, automotive leasing. So leasing has been on a bit of a decline. So we're going to guess, let's say, about 200 million, and a total automotive revenue of $6.4 billion. Now, energy generation, I believe Tesla was saying that it's seasonally weak in the wintertime. So this was actually the number from Q4 of last year. So let's say it's around the same as that. We don't care that much. It's not as significant as the automotive sales for the purposes of this exercise. And we believe that there's going to be more Tesla cars on the road because of last quarter, which means more services being offered for these cars. So you could see the jump from Q2 to Q3. So we believe it's going to go up just a little bit more in Q4. And Tesla's going to have a total of $7.1 billion in revenue is our estimate. So that's pretty good compared to their last quarter, which was $6.8 billion. Okay, so now to estimate the costs of those revenues. So we just took the same percentage from Q3 and we applied that to Q4. So that's how we get the 4.6 billion over here and the $108 million for costs of automotive leasing and $4.8 billion in total costs. For energy storage, we did the same thing. For services, we believe Tesla's been investing quite heavily in the services over time and to put out new service centers. So I don't think that'll change too much, but more cars are on the road that'll start using it. So in total, the costs are probably going to be around 5.5 billion, and that leaves us with 1.5 billion in gross profit. Now, Tesla did lay off a big chunk of its workforce, I believe at the end of Q2, which would account for this big drop between Q2 and Q3 that we see over here. However, I think they've started hiring again. They're now closer to 50,000 employees. So let's just say it's going to be a little bit higher than the last quarter, but maybe not as high as it was before. So 370 million. Now selling SG&A, this is probably the most interesting account over here. So when we were estimating our Q3 numbers, we grossly overestimated this number last time because we thought that, Tesla doubled the number of cars that they sold going from Q2 to Q3, yet the SG&A it actually ended up going down. So, and Elon was saying in the previous conference call that if they can reduce their inventory time and speed up basically the time that it takes for a car to go from the production site to the customer, then if they just do that alone, they could save tens of millions of dollars. So I think Tesla can probably cut costs over here. And although they sold more cars this quarter than Q3, they doubled the number of cars from Q2 to Q3. And so they just increased the number of cars by 8%. So I think that they can cut costs by quite a bit. So let's estimate 710 million for the current quarter. That's a bold statement to actually have it reduced given the number of cars increased. However, Tesla does seem to have worked hard to fix their logistics problem and to deliver cars much faster. A lot of people on Twitter were saying that they ordered their cars and within a day or even the same day they were able to get their cars. So I think that saves a lot of money for Tesla for keeping their cars in inventory, and that's why this number might actually go down. There was no significant restructuring cost. There was definitely a big one in Q2. There was less talk of it in Q3, so I'm just going to say $10 million for a little bit of restructuring, but I don't think this probably should be almost negligible. And so this gets us the total expenses of about $1.09 billion. Everything else sort of just falls through. These numbers are just pretty much the same as the previous quarter. I haven't really touched these, even though they might change slightly. So this brings us to a net income of 357 million, a little bit higher than the 311 million from last quarter. And if we use the same number of basic and diluted shares that they had, even though this probably should increase a little bit, we get about $2.01 per diluted share. So based on the deliveries from this quarter, we're estimating that Tesla's going to earn $2.01 per share, which is actually higher than last quarter and makes the company quite profitable, which is a huge change from its very much negative days. So that's something to look forward to when they report their earnings within the next month. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and check out our other Tesla videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this one, and thanks for watching.